Here we go.
Woohoo!
Wahoo! Might be the best Mario I've ever done.
Better make sure that's muted. Cool. And then we're going to share this to a group. SMUG Live. Cool.
Come on, notification. There we go. I see us.
Hey. Hello, ServiceMonster people of 2023. I'm going to open this back up, get some light on my face.
Really need to get a lamp for over here. It's like the yin and the yang of Adam here.
I just use my monitor. I have enough of them. Let's see. Watch. Ta-da.
Yeah. Right. Funny thing, I think. Sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you can see some of my monitors like on the posters in the back. Like I'm moving the screen around. You can kind of see it.
Oh yeah, I try to see it if you're doing anything crazy back there when we have Zoom meetings. So welcome to 2023, everyone. From the ServiceMonster team here. Adam's gonna run through a handful of things. What are we talking about today?
Yeah. I hope everyone had, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you guys celebrate. Hope you maybe had some good time off with family, friends, or whoever. 2023, and we've definitely got some big things lined up. Some big projects we want to kind of finish off, and really want this to be a big year for ServiceMonster and the ServiceMonster users. So we're excited to kind of chat with you here. Oh, Alan made it to the live event. It's been a bit. He usually watches after the fact. Great to see you, Alan. So we had a couple of releases in December. We chatted about them last month, but the 668 releases did go live. The main one at the first week of December, and then a couple of smaller sub releases afterwards. You guys can see the full breakdown in the release notes section, which we've been kind of showcasing on every event here, just to making sure you guys are seeing kind of what's new and so forth. The big one was what we kind of talked about with the zebra or candy striping effect that you can show if there are appointments that don't have any technicians assigned, right? So that was kind of the big thing that we showed there, and wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. We also made the quick add summary collapsible, and it kind of is a lot cleaner now for you guys, and it gets out of the way, right? But if you are someone who likes to go back into that and jump from the account to the order, make updates as needed, maybe you still have the capability, and you can always close it as normal, but it's pretty clean. There were some bug fixes that were tied to this. There were some changes that happened to the line item editors, and a couple of subsequent small tweaks there as well. But I'll let you guys kind of go look at the release notes, and you can take a peek at those. As far as what we have going on here in January, release looking like next Thursday, give or take a day. We got the 669 release that's rolling through, and I'm actually going to show, kind of like we did last month, what the new big feature is. There's actually a couple of things here, but the main thing are arrival windows. This is something that we had a lot of really great discussion over the last 5 or so months of the year. Had some back and forth with a lot of you guys. It's by far our most discussed topic of the year, and so I really tried to get it out before the end of the year. But we've got a lot of vacations and holiday stuff planned during the holiday season, as I'm sure some of you guys deal with as well. So we typically don't release anything those last 2 weeks of the year, just to kind of keep things clean and safe and so forth. So this is where we're at, and I will showcase that here really quick with a screen share, so you guys can kind of see what this is going to look like. So make sure I grab the right screen here. So arrival windows, there's really two main types that we kind of want to make available for you guys. And the way this is going to work is there's kind of a global schedule setting, and then there's also route settings you guys can have if you've got particular routes that might need larger or smaller windows based on the services that they perform. So that's going to be found in the schedule settings, and then there's going to be a new tab called arrival windows. You can toggle these on. They're going to be off by default, so you guys can toggle these on. There's basically two options. There's one that we're essentially calling an offset from the appointment to start time, and it's the half-hour increments up to 4 hours. You can choose, how much the offset is before the appointment start time, how much the offset is after the appointment start time. And you'll see if I select the 1 hour option here, this example down here will showcase what that means, right? So if you have an appointment that's scheduled at 9 a.m. with the 1 hour offsets in both directions, the arrival window would show between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., right? So that's the arrival window. So you have that option if that works for you. And you also have what we're calling fixed time windows. Sorry, I was kind of playing around with this beforehand. So the fixed time windows, you can create up to 6 of these. And you can just say, hey, if it falls in this window, this is the arrival window. Essentially what we're doing here. So if you want to have 2 hour increments, you can 8 to 10, 10 to noon, noon to 2, 2 to 4, etc. You can do that. Or maybe you have kind of larger windows at the beginning and the end of the day, right? So in the morning, you might have a bigger window, and at the afternoon, you might have a bigger window. You can do kind of custom things like that, right? Up to 6 of them total. And you can't have an overlap. You guys, any of our savvy users might have caught that the overlap wasn't on there currently. It's actually just about to be pushed to the test build, that particular override, but you won't be able to save if you have an overlap, because you can't have 2 time windows that are in the same time, right? The note down here also indicates if you have an appointment start time that doesn't fall into any of the arrival windows. Like, let's say you've got an 8 to 10 and a 10 to noon, but you don't have anything in the afternoon. Any appointment in the afternoon it'll just showcase, right, the standard appointment start and end time, right? So that's essentially how it'll work. And then, like I said, this is just the global setting. So this is sort of setting up defaults for your whole company, right, for the schedule. You can then go further and you can go into a particular route. And we've added the arrival window section here. And so this is going to basically be an override. And if by the way, if you don't have arrival windows turned on, this is going to have basically a warning pointing you to the schedule settings, because you have to have a default first and foremost. But the route setting is basically just like, hey, I want to have a different setting for this particular route. And you can kind of set that up. There's some other things that aren't quite ready to show off. Like the arrival windows will showcase on the hover pop-up, on the sidecar, on the appointment modal itself. Those aren't quite in yet. Those are the last things he's finishing up. And there will be merge fields and things like that tied to your communication to your users. Any of the API users, developers, and so forth. Yes, this will be an object you'll be able to see if you're, scheduling or, getting a job, right? Or an appointment, if you want to kind of see the information, this is tied to that object, right? So you will be able to see that information there as well. Same with our third-party integrations. They'll be able to see that as well if you guys are curious. So we're definitely excited to get that out. It's definitely going to be the big one that we're going to see the most kind of feedback on immediately, but I'm super excited for it. So I'll stop the screen share here, go back to our smiling faces. There are 2 other pretty major changes. One of them might actually roll out a little bit later. It's changes to the order approval. It's tied to a separate project, not that anyone really cares, but it was something we'll probably push likely a week after this as kind of its own little sub release. But we're overhauling the config page and options for the order approval and knocking out a lot of the requests that our users have had over the years on kind of how to improve this, how to improve the layouts, how to add the order notes if you want those, how to add disclaimers. So the order disclaimers, being able to add that to the order approval kind of form. If you guys want to do that, you can create a custom disclaimer that's just for that, right? and a few other kind of just odds and ends, and really just giving it a deeper configuration overall. And we'll be likely piggybacking off of that to improve the online payment page as well, the online invoice page. So definitely be looking forward to kind of feedback from that. I've taken a lot of feedback from you guys over the last year or two, a lot of track that we're getting out of the way there. There's another change that isn't quite as exciting, I think, for the user base, but it is exciting for us because it's going to allow us to kind of broaden our horizons in a lot of ways. And I'll let Joe hop in a little bit on this one to talk about some changes to kind of sales tax and Nexus and what that all means. So Joe, why don't you take it off?
Yeah, I mean, and the only reason I want to touch on this is it's another reason why I'm a bad CEO. I don't always just move forward, and I know that Eric and I take laws and taxes and all that stuff very seriously. We run a very serious business. We have since day one. And one of the things that's been a problem is this little thing called Nexus. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but essentially what it means is you can trigger certain events within a state that force a relationship, sales tax relationship between my software business or my tangible goods like Fill My Schedule to the state and make that a sales taxable event, meaning that I would then have to figure out how to make the sales tax show up on your invoices if you're in a specific state. And 1 out of 50, that's not too bad, but I also have to manage every single jurisdiction and the sales tax within that jurisdiction for the services that we provide. Now we're talking tens of thousands of jurisdictions, and almost unique for every client, right? And I didn't want to do stuff that would cause Nexus to go into effect. And one of the clear things that we stayed away from was affiliate relationships, affiliate marketing. So let's say that, I get a relationship with, one of these influencers on Facebook, and I want to pay them. So when they bring me leads, if those clients hang out and stick around, they get a kickback. Lots of software companies do this. It's a main method of growth for VC-backed companies. And it's something that I haven't taken advantage of because of this little scary thing called Nexus, because of administration headaches that we didn't really want to deal with. And a few years ago, a couple SaaS companies came around that allow us through APIs to manage this in a much easier way. So last year I was like, okay, I'm done with this Nexus thing, being worried about the big bad bogey monster. We've got to make these changes. And that's what Adam is talking about now. So what you guys will see on your invoice is a sales tax item for $0. That's what 90% of you will see. 99% of you will see. For those of you in Washington State, for 20 years, we have been paying your sales tax for you. You will see a line item to show up eventually here in the next few months for whatever tax rate your jurisdiction is for the products and services. It's not a scalable model. And I have more things that are going to cause Nexus. Another fun thing is employees. Now that ServiceMonster is a remote environment, I'm still only employing Washington State employees, except for the one that decided that they wanted to move, which they should be able to do if they work in a remote workforce. So one of our employees went to hang out in another state. And so now I have Nexus in that state. So I got to click the button. So I don't think it means anything yet because that state doesn't have tax jurisdiction for software services or our Fill My Schedule services, as I understand it. But again, if any of that changes, what you'll see is that it'll just pop up on your invoice, and it's going to be the 5% or 8% or whatever it is, wherever you're at. And that money will be handed right back to your state to do whatever local municipalities do with that cash. So FYI, right now, it won't change except for you seeing that $0, and Washington State people on some of their Fill My Schedule stuff might see it. But other than that, we're not establishing Nexus level events, and we may not be establishing them anytime soon, but now it's no longer an obstacle to my sales, which, that's not good. So that's why we cleared it up.
Absolutely.
I hope I didn't take too long on that.
No, I think it's good to kind of discuss it, and there'll be a post. There's a bunch of documentation we'll send out so everyone kind of understands why the change is in effect. And yeah, anywhere where it would take effect, it'll be very clear that, hey, this is a a sales tax. Any of the receipts you guys get will indicate the total, and it'll also have a section for you guys to kind of see, like, hey, if you're seeing this is why, kind of thing, right? So pretty standard. I know taxes, no one really likes to talk about them overall, but yeah, like you said, we've been paying them out of pocket since the business inception.
Ever.
So
yeah.
So yeah, some big changes there. Already kind of hinted at a couple of the other things that are coming back right after that. But I think for now we can probably jump into the feature mention of the month, and we'll actually introduce for the first time, kind of really stepping in here to the show, other than her initial greeting, with Elena. I figured talking about the arrival windows be probably a pretty good time to just talk about the schedule settings. I think there's a lot of settings in here that a lot of users don't necessarily take advantage of, or maybe really understand. So I figured it'd be kind of just a nice point to just kind of showcase that and what these entail. So take it away, Elena.
Hi, Elena.
Hi. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with y'all. Can you see that?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and navigate over to our schedule. And at the top here, we have some different tabs. We're going to go into settings. So this is our schedule settings. Under general, the first tab, the first thing you want to do is set your location. This is really important because this is your dispatch location, which is where all of your appointment color coding is based around. So on the color wheel, for example, your dispatch location is going to be at the center of this color wheel. This is basically like a color coded compass. So if we go back up here, we can see max driving range is right now set to 45. That is also reflected in the color wheel. And your small radius zone around dispatch location, that is this little gray area. This is the closest to your dispatch. So that will appear in gray if you have this box checked. So we do right now. So to go over the color wheel, I currently have my color wheel set with blue as north, and I chose to do that because I live in Olympia, Washington, and I have a body of water right north of me, and you can change this. So if you were in Bellingham, like many of you are, red could possibly represent Canada. I know a lot of people like to do that, but I'm going to stick with the blue. You can also adjust how many colors will appear. So you can do 8, 4, you can go all the way up to a full gradient, which is maybe a lot, but I'll stick with the 4 or the 8. If we go back to general, these business hours you can adjust, and this will be reflected on the schedule, as well as hover details, and I'll show you that in a second. And your schedule interval is also reflected on the schedule. We can adjust this between 15 or 30 minutes. So if we exit out, we take a look. You can see here, I'm on my schedule. And I have a few appointments in here. Oops, did not want that. If I hover over my appointment, you can see that the details do pop up. And that's because I do have that box currently checked. And we can adjust the intervals of time. Right now it's set to 15. So these are all skipping from like 12:30 to 12:45, 15-minute intervals. Now let's go back into our general settings. And are there anything else here? Nope. So that's about it for that. Now, if we take a look at appointment details, you can select between thin, medium, or wide. Those are minimum size for your appointment cards. And that will affect the minimum size of the appointment card. So you can change this at any time. And we have a whole bunch of details that you can select here. So if I were to uncheck some of these details, they would no longer appear in my appointment card. And you can have as many or as few of these checked as you want. You get to customize that however is best for you. And maybe if you do have all of them checked, you might want to go with a wider card to help fit some of those details.
Do you want to kind of show that in action? Kind of just show off the details being on or off, and then kind of just.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back out and take a look at this card. So we have quite a few details in this, and you can see that you can scroll down as well to see the whole card. And on the right side, you can see everything as well. Now, if we deselect a few of these, you will have to save, by the way, or it's not gonna show up. And you can see there's a lot less information in this appointment card. Before I was able to scroll down, I'm not even able to scroll up and down because there's a lot less information in here. So those are your appointment details. And for our display, you have a lot of options here. You can sort your routes alphabetically. You can show the route name, icon. You can show daily route totals if you wish. And by unchecking these, they will no longer appear. And this is kind of a new feature. The appointments activities show warning if no texts are assigned. So if I do have this checked, my appointment will give me a warning if I do not have any text currently assigned to that appointment. If I uncheck this box, I will not receive a warning in that appointment. So this could be really useful to give you a heads up what's going on. First day of the week, this is going to affect your schedule. So right now I have mine set to Monday. So what this means is that on my schedule, the first day of the week that appears is Monday. You can also change this to current day. If you change it to current day, you can also change the number of days that are showing. So if you wanted to really customize this, you could have up to 10 days showing and as few as 1 day showing if you have it set to current day. I'm going to keep mine on Monday.
Yeah, the way I kind of describe it is, either you're looking at a week, right? You're just looking at a standard calendar week, and a lot of users will, be either starting with Sunday or Monday, or if they have an offset, maybe they'll do like a Tuesday through Saturday kind of thing. But typically it's going to be something like that. Like you're looking at just a standard calendar week. Whereas the current day setting is more of like, I just care about today and the future, right? And so you're no longer looking at as a week by week. You're looking at it as like, I only care about the future and what's happening today. And so that's what she's talking about. You can have that setting. You come into the schedule. The current day is always going to be the furthest left day. And then you can choose how many days beyond that it shows. So
exactly.
Another thing to mention too, just because we do get questions on it, the daily route totals. So really the difference between those two, if you close out of the schedule settings here, there you can see the count on the route itself, and then also just there's a summation, right, tied to the day. So you can choose to do both or one or the other, right? If all you care about is the full day, you can just do that. If you want to see the route by route breakdown, you can do that as well. But there are some things that are tied to this, right? It's if you have multiple appointments tied to a work order or invoice, it will split those up. So if they're over, multiple days or so forth, it will divide that up, what the revenue count is. It also won't count if you have a voided order or if it's in an estimate state, because it's not considering that, potential. It's not considering that revenue yet. It has to be in a work order or invoice state. So very cool. Well, thank you, Elena. And
was there anything else we wanted to add?
The only thing, if you're on the color wheel here, I think
I
always love talking about this because I delivered pizza and Joe and I always joke about that. We would love bringing in my pizza stories, but when we delivered pizza, it's a little bit different now. The Uber Eats and the DoorDashes of the world have kind of drastically changed the delivery environment. So a lot of these places don't have to rely just on, internal staff to make these deliveries. And so it kind of changes how they dispatch a little bit. But when I was working there, if, we had a delivery that was really close to the store, we could send that with anything. We could also send it just as a quick kind of single, like, hey, you're out the store 7-8 minutes, you're delivering that and you're coming back. That was an option. But you could send it with anything, right? If that was first thing on the list, you just wanted to send a quick double and not have to waste the time having the driver come back to the store, get out of the car, come back in, cash out that order, grab the next order and go in. You're saving that time potentially by just sending it with anything, right? And that's the same idea with this general setting of the little display radius, this gray circle. You can think of it as like your dispatch location is the very center of that. And then you can toggle this little kind of wider radius. And I believe it's 5% of your max driving range. So if you're, and her example, I think it's 45 miles, that would be like 2 miles, give or take. But it's basically this small radius where you can send it with anything sort of without having too many issues, as long as it's like the first or the last appointment of the day, right? You don't want to have, for our example, you don't want to go up to Linden and then come back to Bellingham, then go back up to Linden, obviously. But if it's the first or the last appointment, you can kind of schedule that on any route, right? That's the intention behind that. So otherwise, you did great. So I appreciate that, Elena, and I hope our users did too. Go ahead and pop off that screen share, and then we'll get back to perfect. All right. So with that, we have just some SMUG posts to talk about. And the first one, some of you guys might not have even really noticed. Some of you might have noticed a whole lot. We had just the other day a nationwide, or I don't want to say nationwide, region-wide at least, outage with our phone provider, the back end that our support team uses and our sales team use. And so for, I think it was a little under 2 hours, we didn't have the phone support. We still had email support, and we definitely helped along along that path. But I kind of wanted to mostly just explain what happened with that, but also just to kind of showcase that we go through things like this to make sure that we're prepped to reach out to you guys if anything does happen, and kind of just reference that being prepared for worst case scenarios is going to be going to go a long way in making sure that you kind of come through that with your business, right, intact, right? So if your phone system went down, what would you guys do? How would you communicate to your technicians or your office staff, so on and so forth, and things like that? We obviously updated SMUG, so any of our SMUG users knew right away. We updated a couple of pages on our website, any of the contact us pages, so that they knew that was down. And then making sure if anyone was emailing about it, that we were contacting them, kind of immediately, just to kind of pass that along. And so just kind of, I guess, explaining that from a business perspective of, making sure that you prepare for the worst, hope for the best, right, kind of thing. So not a common occurrence by any means. Our phone provider is one of the biggest in the nation. Hopefully everyone got taken care of right away. I know our support team did a big kind of sweep after it was back up as well, to kind of reaching back out to anyone who might have needed that, who might have been caught in that window. So next one was a question from Ryan, who funnily enough, is that a word? Funnily?
Funnily.
This will be a nice one for Justin to clip out. Can't wait for him to have that little clip of me. But Ryan actually just said hi just a couple minutes ago in the chat, and here I am talking about him at SMUG. But he had asked a question about dragging reminders around the schedule, like I do work orders. Is there a reason that I can't? And the reason I kind of wanted to showcase this is Joe explained why it currently is the way that it is, and Jordan jumped in with a potential solution that won't necessarily work for everybody. But when we're talking about reminders, we're talking about the recurring appointment reminders. So when the recurring appointments are set up, they're basically set up in a way that they're not officially an appointment yet. They're just a reminder to potentially call and schedule an appointment. And so
My original name for those was ghosts, but Eric didn't like it.
ghosts on the schedule. That's essentially what they are until you actually, turn them into a work order or an invoice. And so they're not considered the same as appointments because they don't have a static time one way or the other. And so if you do need to move them around, you would have to convert them first, or as Jordan suggested, you can have a route that basically gets assigned these as a reminder for office staff, but then they don't block the regular schedule or things like that, if that's something that is important. Kyle had a question about the FittleBug. There was an issue that was found where when those appointments are being pushed from FittleBug, it wasn't triggering the automated text and email reminders that go out to users. They could still go in and manually trigger them, but obviously you guys, that kind of defeats a big purpose of that feature for you guys. So we found out what the issue was. We patched that on the API. There is still an issue for the texting that the fix is ready. It's been tested and everything like that. It'll go out with the 669 release that I mentioned at the beginning. So right now the email trigger is working. The text trigger just needs to know, basically there's a update we have to do in SM6 as well that needs to know which phone number it's grabbing essentially. So I also just wanted to shout out Kyle for getting us on that and helping us get that patched. And lastly, I know Alan is here as well, but I wanted to kind of showcase this where he made a post of Ring Central. I know a lot of you guys use Ring Central as like kind of your company communication system. And so they recently made an add-on for an auto reply via SMS. So if someone texts or calls after hours or something like that, where no one can answer from the office, you can have an auto reply set up. So there was a little bit of discussion back and forth. I think it was like literally the day before Christmas. So I don't think a lot of eyes got on it, but I also just wanted to shine a light on that. If any of you guys are using Ring Central and aren't aware, check out that post. It's by Alan. Yeah. And that is pretty much what I got. PJ asked about texting directly from the estimate without going to the schedule. Yes, that will be in early this year. It's something we've kind of gone back and forth on. Really, the only holdup with that has been tied to the templates themselves and some back and forth on kind of if we wanted to make any changes to how the templates are triggering merge fields. It's not nearly as big of an issue on the order as it is on the account, but it was kind of one of the discussion points we had. And I think at this point, we're just going to throw in the same functionality that basically exists on the appointment, which is what he's referencing as far as the schedule goes. So yes, that'll be in early this year. PJ, I've actually got it tracked in one of the upcoming sprints. So
good deal. All right. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
That was a great summary. And welcome to 2023. We've got some exciting things coming up throughout the year, but I don't want to get people too excited. We still got promises that we are delivering from last year, including ServiceMonster Lite and the new Fill My Schedule custom front changes. So those are coming shortly. So pay attention to announcements. And if you need anything, you know where to call us. Until next time, thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.